when are they so common? We are all capable of speaking with precision, and we are all also capable of mumbling and rambling. And the key distinction here is, are we self-focused or are we other-focused? When a kid runs in front of a bus, no one says, there's a a vehicular incident about to occur. We reach for language instantly. We grab it and we shout that language, because in that moment, our focus is the two places it should actually be. One, our audience, the kid, and number two, the message we need to communicate. So in that moment, we, with complete linguistic precision, grab onto that language. When we're more self-focused, we begin to think all about our own performance, and our communication crumbles. And we begin to mumble or ramble or do all the other things. How do you deal with this? And the answer is to approach it physically. And if you read the book, there's lots and lots of exercises that rely on embodied cognition to change habits. For linguistic precision, I actually have folks walk their fingers across a table or desk or hard surface and choose each and every single word that comes out of their mouth. So in effect, they're walking their ideas across the table, and they're using that specific motion of using their fingers, almost like a small pedestrian walking, to really isolate that activity of choosing words, as opposed to just opening your mouth and letting words choose you. But what we're really after with all of the exercises in the book is that they can trigger a virtuous cycle in which one positive impact unfolds and addresses another and triggers another. You did that exercise for structure and for conciseness, and then all of a sudden you began to actually think of slightly smarter ideas or better ways to organize your thoughts. That helps linguistic precision too. That helps you not mumble also, because you're more in command of the words that you're actually choosing. So you have less filler and less mumbling and things like that. I actually give clients two criteria to think about filler language. The first criteria is it grammatically necessary? And the second is, are you aware you're doing it? Because any word could be categorized as filler language if those two criteria have the wrong answer. Let's look at kinda for a second. Kinda could be absolutely necessary in a sentence. Tea is a kind of beverage. But if you say, I kind of feel like a cup of tea, then it's filler. I invite people to broaden their idea of what is the filler? What are the words that litter my speech and I'm not even thinking about it? Why do people use filler? We use it for a bunch of reasons, most of which are bad. One of them is that when we're feeling self-focused and not other-focused, when we're thinking about ourselves, all those pauses or times that could actually be silence, it feels threatening to have this silence and no one's talking. And so I feel like I have to fill that silence up. And so we tend to put an or a kind of or a sort of in all of those gaps. Now, those gaps, though, are important. And here's why. Our brains want novelty. We're wired to look for novelty. Surprises mean danger or delight. So if you give your audience a soundscape that just is constant and any silence is filled with an or an you're actually inviting your audience to tune out. How do you change it? In this chapter on conciseness and structure and reducing filler language, I have a page that you can actually rip out and tear up into 6 pieces. You share one thought at a time, not 3, not 5, not 25, one. And at the end of the thought, in silence, where the period might go at the end of a sentence, you place the object down. The tear to pieces of that page are the object. In silence, you pick up the second object, share your second idea. And at the end of that idea, again, in silence, you place that object down. Third thought is the same thing. What this does for folks is it begins to unleash this incredibly powerful thing, their brain, because their brain has the two things it needs to think of smart stuff: time and oxygen, because you can breathe instead of saying relentlessly. And so people begin to become more concise, more structured. They have more pauses, fewer ums, and they tend to say smarter stuff. I counsel people to let go of that deeply reductive instruction, don't make distracting hand gestures, because the results are so bad. Now, there are situations in which limiting your gestures can be important. When you're in front of a camera, it's a key one. You don't want to block the camera's lens. But most of the time, all that happens when people think about restraining their hand gestures is they restrain themselves as a communicator. So restrained hand gestures leads to restrained vocal variety. Restrained vocal variety leads to less enunciation. Less enunciation leads to a more static, non-expressive face. More static, non-expressive face tends to lead to stiff posture and lack of movement. What you get is essentially a presentation robot, and the performance is poor. Very often, this is entirely triggered from don't make distracting hand gestures. And I find what's much more effective for people is simply to liberate them to speak how they actually speak in real life. And those folks very frequently use their hands to speak because their hands have a story to tell too. And they're far better speaking how they speak in real life. When people have a mistake or a mishap, even when they're very well rehearsed and that mistake really throws them, a big cause of it is probably how they prepared. They probably tried to memorize their delivery, not just their content. They actually memorized how they were going to say things, And no, my video does not have a glitch. What I'm showing you is saying things in the exact identical way over and over again. So their body has memorized identical delivery. Now, if anything at all goes differently than expected, what happens is their body says, oh gosh, something different, something unexpected, and it tends to feel like a tremendous mistake or a threat. There's no shame in being memorized and accurate with the words you want to say, but instead of memorizing delivery, practice it differently. Say it higher one time with much more delivery, like you're a little kid in an amusement park. And then another time, walk around the room, even swinging your arms methodically and slowly like an elephant. You have to do anything you can to break out of the physical patterns that are keeping you in kind of a perfectionistic lockstep kind of delivery. How do you handle mistakes? Accept that they are a when, not an if they are going to happen. So the question is not, can you be mistake-free? The question is, can you recover from the mistakes that are inevitable? Replace the 3 Fs, the 3 evolutionary threat response Fs of fight, flight, or freeze with 3 different Fs, and they are fake it, feature it, or fix it. So fake it means, look, if you've made a mistake but no one knows and it's not throwing you off, fake it, keep going. But if it is threatening to throw you off, then you have 2 great options. You can fix it or you feature it. Fix it means you simply acknowledge it, handle it, and move on. That can sound like the PowerPoint slide is not loading, so let's just have a conversation and I'll check at the break and see if we can reload it. Or you feature it, which means you actually spin the thing as a good event. So that could sound like the PowerPoint slide is not loading. This is actually a great coincidence because it gives us an opportunity to talk about what we should do when technology fails us, because it will fail us. So you simply are transparent about it and you feature it. Now, if you want to internalize these behaviors, these 3 Fs, in the chapter on navigating mistakes, I actually include some pages that readers can rip out that have transparency phrases like, let me go back for a moment, or let me try that again, or let me clarify that. They can even cut those cards out and put them under this, which is what I call the digital cloak of invisibility, and practice in remote calls. When does eye contact not serve delivery? Well, the answer is when we're doing reductive things that are not natural, oftentimes from guidance or coaching that is well-meaning but doesn't work. It sounds like hold eye contact for 8 to 12 seconds, or hold eye contact through the length of a complete thought, or make sure you look to all four quadrants of the room. Now, the background of these ideas or these guidelines is defensible in that good communicators do tend to do some of those same behaviors, but they're not intended to be that prescriptive. People should hold eye contact for the length of the thought, not because they have to do that for every single thought, but because they should look to their audience to see, is my audience digesting what I've said or not? So eye contact becomes distracting when people are thinking about it as a possession that they have. And they're trying to demonstrate good eye contact by never looking away or looking away at key junctures in the conversation, the time with the ends of thoughts. Eye contact is an activity. It is, in essence, you showing your audience, showing your listener that you care about them. And you should be looking at them not because you're trying to show how much presence you have, but you should be looking at them to learn about them and see how what you're saying actually affects them. Every single chapter has at the end a feature that says, what about virtual? I talk about how things change when we're remote. And the funny thing is that they don't. Not much. There is one big exception. Eye contact is dramatically different depending on the environment. So when you're in a large audience, yeah, you should be looking to different people, trying to affect different people in the audience, trying to reach them. When you're remote, that all goes away. There's a lot of challenges with remote communication and a lot of, candidly, bad things about it. But this one thing is actually incredible, and that is the camera. The camera is a tremendous gift, because it allows you to beam yourself into the hearts and minds of any number of people anywhere. When you're doing large presentations or speaking to large groups, but it's remote or hybrid even, what you want to be doing is looking at the camera as much as you can. Now, it feels weird sometimes to do that because you naturally want to look at your audience, of course. So I'll teach you a tool to do this. You can just move the picture or the video box of some person close to the camera on your computer screen and make their video box quite small and look at them. I'm going to actually demonstrate this live. I'm right now looking right at the camera's lens. If I look down a little bit, just below it, to where a video box of a viewer could be, functionally, it doesn't look that different. Now notice if I put their video box all the way down there, how dramatically different that looks. So you can still look at someone to get those great nonverbal cues, but you can position their video box very near the camera and therefore really beam your presence into the brains of all your listeners everywhere. Muscle memory is essential when you're trying to improve as a communicator, and it's for a really important reason. We dramatically underestimate how physical speaking actually is. We think of it as a cognitive activity, like if I think smart ideas, I will share those smart ideas. But it takes over 100 muscles to do this everyday miracle of turning air into sound and then sound into words. It's a physical activity. It's closer to a sport or to dancing than it is just thinking. And so therefore, like any other sport or physical discipline, relying on muscle memory to help you improve is the foolproof way to get better at your technique. It is a much better route to improve than a bunch of the negative and counterproductive coaching you've received in the past. That coaching probably sounds like this. It starts with thought suppression. Then it goes to don't general. And then next it goes to a mental instruction for what is a physical activity. Thought suppression means don't rush. General don't feedback means don't talk so fast. Just slow down. And a mental adjustment for what is a physical activity sounds like remember to take a breath. So if you put this all together, don't rush. Don't talk too fast, just slow down. Remember to breathe. What you get is feedback that is completely inactionable because it completely misses how physical speaking actually is. So instead, All the exercises in this book are designed to do the same thing. Use embodied cognition to build positive muscle memory and to break habits that haven't been serving you for maybe even decades. Vocal fry has gotten utterly tumbled up in our cultural conversation about it, where on one side it's a career ender, and on the other side it's a totally unfair and biased ad hominem attack on someone's identity. And neither is true. It's a mechanical phenomenon. It's insufficient air flowing over the vocal folds. Think of this like a internal combustion engine, but one that's trying to eke along with not enough gas and is petering out as it just collapses. To shift that, what you have to do is allow enough air to flow over the vocal cords freely and easily and fluidly to actually get that free vibration to create sound. So this is why I use the words put air into action rather than breathe. Breathing could mean a lot of different things. And for most folks, when they hear breathe, what they automatically do is what's called a reset breath. And that looks like this. It's a stress relief or tension relief exercise, but it has nothing to do with communicating. The air for speaking is the fuel to actually carry your communication. So if you breathe, but you let all the air go, you're not actually putting air into action. Put the breath that you take into your body into service to accomplish what you want, which is reaching another person. One way to do this is an exercise that actors and singers use, a yawn sigh. So you yawn. And then as soon as you might start that exhale, if you were yawning, you speak. And you use all that air you've just taken in to support your voice. So you can try that and put air into action. I want to hone in on that word perfect. I don't have a drive or desire to perfect communication because I think it's impossible. When I used to live in New York City, I coached the faculty at Columbia Business School on their front of room presence, how they taught to their classes. And most of the professors who signed up for the optional coaching with me were professors who were already exceptional and they were trying to get even better, but they're not perfect. None of us are. The goal is not that we're ever going to get to perfect communication. What I am obsessed with, though, is thinking about how we can use a more perfect process to improve at communicating. Because the process traditionally has not been that great. It usually activates self-focus. That sounds like don't make distracting hand gestures, or just be yourself, or just be authentic, or just command the room. And all it does is activate self-focus. So instead, what I'm really interested in is using physical exercises and embodied cognition to teach people how to do differently. Part of why this is so interesting to me is that, like anyone, I've had my hardships in life, more than some, fewer than many. And what I discovered in my own life is that fixating on how I was feeling or trying to control my thoughts wasn't working. In many cases, it was making things worse. Finding actionable things that I can do and do repeatedly and do no matter how I'm feeling in a given situation was deliverance. And so the book is intended to give the reader that same deliverance, that there are things that they can do and do repeatedly, no matter how they're feeling, to achieve better. And that's the point of the book. Those with the loudest mouths often are not saying the smartest stuff. And the folks who sit back and listen and practice wisdom activities of listening and mindfulness might actually have the best ideas. I'm not the first person to make this observation. The difference here is simply that I hope my book helps those people recognize how deeply physical communication actually is and begin to treat their lives a little bit more like a communication athlete. And if they build these muscles, they can get their brilliant ideas out there into the world to fight some of the not so brilliant ideas that are out there from the people who just like to have their voices heard.